Hello and welcome to Talking Hoosier Baseball. Today is Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. The Indiana Hoosiers are bound for the NCAA Tournament for the first time since 2019. On Monday, the regional pairings were announced, and the Indiana Hoosiers were selected to be the 3 seed in the Lexington Regional. Indiana will, on Friday at 7 p.m., will face West Virginia. Earlier in the day, and West Virginia is the 2 seed. Earlier in the day, 1 seed Kentucky will face off against 4 seed Ball State. Indiana's coming off a week in which they went 1-2 in Omaha at the Big Ten tournament. Cassidy Palmer was there, and she will have some feedback on what happened during the Big Ten tournament about all of the festivities. So we'll have a quick look back at the Big Ten tournament and then head on looking towards regional play. Cass, what do you got from Omaha?
Yeah, so I will say this was my first time at Charles Schwab Field, and that place is just incredible. It is the home of the College World Series for a reason, and we are very lucky in Big Ten land that we get to use that for our conference tourney every year. Want to start with that. Getting that first win right off the bat against Illinois was really good. We had mentioned it on our podcast, and I saw it mentioned a few other places. It was the first opener win in Big Ten tournament for IU in a bunch of years. So to get that one out of the way, and it's Coach Mercer's first time winning the opener in the Big Ten tourney. So that's really good to see. Having to face Iowa right after that is always going to be tough. We saw that Iowa is a quality team, and they were one of the teams selected for NCAAs. So that was a tough draw. But having the opportunity to be there for the first time that Michigan coach Tracy Smith took on IU after leaving after the 2014 season, that was really special. I know it didn't go the way we wanted, but to be there for that as someone who really started following the team in 2013. I had watched games before that, but as someone who started watching under Tracy Smith, that was a really cool opportunity to see that game. And really, I'm just looking forward to the regional more. There were some bumps and bruises in Big Ten tournament, but honestly, from my perspective, knowing that kind of didn't matter how the games went, we were still in NCAAs regardless. Honestly, having that few extra days of rest, I think, is actually probably bigger for the team than continuing on would have been.
Well, it was great to have you out there, Cass. The shots you got from the dugouts and the pregame stuff. You know, I'm at work and I'm doing what I got to do, and to have that was a real big plus. And I think you did a great job. Sounded like the press box had some good food and treated you real well too. I read in your recap, you know.
Yes.
And I think we have to touch on Luke Sinnard's performance.
Yes.
You know, it was really 7 innings, 1 run. What he did to that lineup, even with the 14 errors or whatever it was, to throw 117 pitches, you know, he refused to get out of that game. He was going to throw till his arm fell off. If Mercer lets him go 140, I think he would have went.
Oh yeah.
Luke was outstanding. It was just something impressive to watch. And I mean, as a sophomore, with that kind of poise, when the wheels were coming off early, with the, you know, bases loaded, nobody out, he doesn't let them score. And they only score 1 run in 7 innings. The next 7 innings, we give up like 14 runs. And to see what Luke was able to do, you know, that really showed me something. Not that we didn't know he was our ace, but for him to just, you know, shove like that on a mound after winning the first game, I tell you, I had dreams of us just going 4-0 and winning the whole thing. And obviously it didn't work out. The back end had some difficulties. And then, there was some more miscues in the field. But hats off to Luke Sinnard for really, really showing up. And it was the highlight of the tournament for me.
Yes, definitely agree on that. Although I will say anybody who hits a home run at Charles Schwab Field gets a call out. So gotta give Bobby Whalen some credit there.
Absolutely. And the guys love it because Bobby and Glasser are the real leaders of the team, the vets. Maybe the more the more outgoing guy might be the Josh Pine. But when Whalen and Glasser are really going, they're the engine and they really get us rolling. And I look forward to them shining in the regional. They've been waiting a long time for this, the two of them. A lot of the guys on the team, I mean, have any of them played in the regional? I don't think any, even the vets, not that I know of. This is, new territory for us.
Yeah, I was trying to think if any of the vets might have.
I don't think so.
I don't think
I mean,
so.
I could be wrong. Obviously, I know Manasseh played in the JUCO World Series, but that's a little bit different.
Right.
Friday night's going to be new territory. West Virginia, though, it's going to be new territory for them too. They haven't played in the regional as long as us, 2019. So, they were hosting it and they weren't able to win their regional in 19. A&M got them. A&M ended up winning their regional. So there's a lot of similarities between these two teams, and that's just one of them. Between the lack of experience in postseason and regionals, the way they don't have, three good, they don't have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday type deal. Neither do we. They run, they hit, they have good defense, they're good up the middle. It's a really even matchup Friday night, and I just can't wait. I'm kind of glad it's under the lights. It's not that 1 o'clock day game kind of thing. This game deserves to be under the lights, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's the premier matchup of the tournament because it's in many ways the 2-3 ought to be, simply because it's in most cases 2 and 3s are both going to throw their primary arm, so which is what's going to happen. So that's what's going to happen. Although I do expect Kentucky to throw their primary arm against Ball State. Mingione did that in 2017 when there was a larger statistical difference there, and probably a lesser opponent than what Kentucky's going to be facing on Friday in Ball State.
A lot of strategy involved in this one, that's for sure. Especially when you got West Virginia's lost 5 in a row. We tailed off a little bit at the end. Kentucky hasn't come in on fire. It's really the hottest team in the thing is Ball State.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They won to get in.
Yep.
Mercer talks all about playing your best ball at the end of the season. Well, in that case, Ball State's the favorite in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's just
no. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, from that perspective, but Ball State's a good team now. I've seen Ball State twice, and they should be beatable. But then again, I haven't seen them with weekend pitching, so that's right. All of the games that Indiana has against this field have been midweek games, and I don't take anything from. And I actually heard a podcast mentioning, Kentucky run ruled Indiana earlier. I don't see how this is a competition
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday in 30-degree weather.
Yep.
At Kentucky, when Indiana was in the middle of an 8-game stretch in 9 days. That was the day Indiana, based on how the pitching was deployed, that was the game they were willing to give up.
Yeah.
They punted that one.
They were taking it. They were obviously, from an offensive perspective, they had all the right people, but they took a chance on some arms that had been struggling. And stretched them farther than you normally would, because the truth is a couple of them actually did pretty well, except they made them stay in for like 3 innings, and then things got rough. So,
but Carl, let's be honest, if we had gone in there on that Tuesday and the weather was beautiful and we beat them 7-4, it wouldn't have meant a thing anyway.
Right.
Because again, it's not the weekend series, guys.
Yeah.
Right. It's not top of the line. It's not, here we go, under the lights, money on the table. It wouldn't have meant anything anyway. It's a reset. We made it in. There's so many teams right now, and it was us for 3 years or 2.5 with COVID.
Yeah.
That don't have a game this weekend.
Yeah.
And we're guaranteed 2. Obviously I want more, but we're guaranteed 2 more games. and it's a reset. It doesn't matter what happened. We've seen this happen. We've seen the 4 seeds win these things. We've seen guys go on a roll. We've seen it was us, right? When we went 2-0, we still couldn't make it out of the damn Bloomington Regional. We've seen guys go down and lose into the losers brackets and come out. There's no set thing here, and it all resets, and you see how it goes. But I'm telling you, this regional, West Virginia was number 6 in the country at one point. All right, Kentucky's obviously going to be at home. They're obviously going to have the crowd if it's night games. We've seen how they do in day games. Nobody shows up. But if they're playing under the lights, their people are going to be there, and the atmosphere is going to be big. Daytime's different for them. Obviously, we've been through this. But, that helps. Wild crowd, and you get you guys behind you. Maybe they'll be pumped up for this from coming from the country music festival or something. I don't know. That holds a whole nother story, the Fire Fest. But I was greedy, right? I was greedy last pod, and I said I want to get in, and I want it close enough to go to. And it's close enough to go to, even if you got to go to Baghdad. It's 45 minutes. So I can't complain. It's just, it is what it is. They were never going to let us go to Indiana State when the chairman's on the board. I didn't really think of that. I was thinking, the chairman's on the board, so Indiana State's definitely going to host. But what that also did was he's definitely not letting us play there. Yeah. Because we would take the shine and we would have all the fans, and it would take away from what they did. And I get that, and I understand that. So I really think this regional is where we were supposed to be. And, let's go win 3 ball games. West Virginia is the team that I looked at. 39-18. They were 39-13 though. They lost their last 5 in a row. They got swept at Texas, and then they went 2 in a barbecue in their conference tournament. They did end up the co-champs. It went 3 ways. Somehow they split this thing up. 33%. Everybody got a T-shirt. A lot of T-shirts coming out of the Big 12 this year with Texas and Oklahoma State. So, but like I said, they were ranked a lot during the season. And I'm not going to say I'm like a West Virginia aficionado through the year. I didn't really pick up on this, but it was 11, 17, as high as number 6. And these are all the D1 rankings, not like the triple cousin, whatever the hell rankings there are. These are all the D1s. They had a 15-9 regular season in the Big 12. I mentioned it before. Their last time in was 2019 to make the tournament. They've had 14 tourney appearances, so there is history here. This coach, though, was around in 19, so this is going to be his second shot. They got a stud, okay? Their second baseman, he's up for National Player of the Year, J.J. Weatherholt. He's a second baseman. He hits left, he throws right. He's like 5'10", 180 pounds, I'll be honest with you. He's not like this big, that's probably why he plays second base, but he's got the movie star look, he's got the look. He's a ball player. Like, you remember Moneyball, and they were talking about, he's got the look, he's got the hot cover. J.J. Weatherholt is the real deal this year. He was not a big prospect coming up. Like, he was something like 50th second baseman out of Pennsylvania or something. Believe it or not, he's from Mars, some town in Pennsylvania. Like, where you from? I'm from Mars, he says. But the guy, he's a stud, man. He is a stud. He won National Player of the Week like 3 times. Right now, he has 39 extra base hits and 35 steals. If he has a good regional and he just gets 1 more extra base hit and 5 more steals, he will be the first Division I player since 2002 to go 40-40 in those categories. Extra base hits and steals. That's pretty wild. That's 20 years. You know what I'm saying? He finished this season so far hitting 443. He was hitting as high as 470 at one point. He bats second in the lineup. The shortstop seems to hit first, Tevin Tucker. Very good shortstop in the field. They built up the middle of this West Virginia team. Fundamentally sound. They have a very good catcher, too. These guys are good. They can run, they can hit, they can field. They don't have the Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, though, as far as pitching, like we talked about before. Seems like Carlson Reed is the guy out of the pen, the big prospect, MLB-wise, down the line. He's got an MLB slider. He's got a good heater. A couple other pitchers that they use, Ben Hampton. He seems to be like the older guy, like the veteran, He might throw Friday. I don't know. Either that or Blaine Traxel. Traxel's more funky. He seems to be like a character on the mound, a little like swagger, as they say. And the thing is, he's got like different arm angles and stuff, which we're not too good with. So I don't know what they're going to go with, honestly. They could go Hampton or Traxel, and then when they have to go to the pen, then they got the big reliever coming out when they need him, Carlson Reed. So those are the arms they have. This team is a lot like us. I'm telling you. They have like 3 or 4 guys with 9 home runs. How we have split up different power guys. Even though they have this weather hole, it's not like they're just relying on him. Plenty of the lineup produces and hits and gets the ball rolling. And a lot of times they've relied on the bottom of the order like we have. It's very, very similar, except for the second baseman. He'll be the best player of the regional. That's pretty much what people are saying. Going into the regional, he is the best player that's in the building or in the dorm room or wherever the hell they're staying. He's the best one there. So we have a lot of work to do to shut him down. It is, yeah. It's 4 guys with 9 home runs or more, and it's going to be rough. Honestly, I think West Virginia might be the favorite of this regional. Kentucky has impressed at times during the year, but Friday night's going to be a wild one. And if we can get that victory, it's house money on Saturday, playing at night again with one more win to be sitting there 2-0. It's going to be rough though. It's gonna, Luke's going to have to really bulldog it up again. I have a feeling. I think that pitch count's going to be long again. I can't see Kraft coming in for 4 or 5 innings, not coming off an injury. Maybe he'll add on to Luke for 2 or 3 or whatever they're going to deploy him. But West Virginia is a solid team. Okay. And they're 19-10 on the road and they're 2-2 in neutral sites. So it's not like they only win at home. It'll feel like a road game when they're playing Kentucky, but it'll feel neutral when they're playing us. So it's just going to be that way. That's pretty much what I got on West Virginia. We got a dogfight Friday night, guys.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cover Kentucky. Kentucky is an interesting baseball team to look at because they don't have a ton that absolutely pops out. I take that back. There is one thing that pops out. They're fielding at a 984 clip. These guys don't make mistakes on defense. Really what it comes down to, what I'm seeing here is a team that is really good at run prevention. They don't really have, one absolute starting stud who is going to shut everything down. They just have a lot of good quality, solid arms, and they have a defense that doesn't make mistakes. And they managed to, with a couple of decent bats, plus a lot of stolen bases and a lot of bunting, they manufacture enough runs so that run prevention works for them. That's pretty much how they do business. How did they get where they are, where they're hosting a regional? That really comes to that being a quality SEC team in the North. So by essentially the North, I know Kentucky is the South, but from a weather perspective, it's enough of the North. Trust me, I went to the Kentucky Proud Park in March. It was winter there.
It's north.
It was.
I remember you guys had blankets. I remember.
Oh, it was cold.
Oh.
And honestly, I saw that. I mean, it just, that team looked so fundamentally sound. But you do have the one really, really good hitter on this team, and that's Jackson Gray. He's got he's over 1,000 in OPS, a 363 average. And keep in mind, this is against SEC pitching. Plus, again, they didn't play anybody bad in the non-con. They didn't necessarily play any great teams, but they didn't play anybody bad. And those two things together, playing an SEC schedule, winning 16 SEC games, and then taking care of most of the rest of their non-con schedule against decent teams, including sweeping Indiana State, who is another host. They had the number 2 RPI in the country, and that's what landed them, with a hosting site, to the chagrin of several other teams. Although the SEC did manage 8 total hosts, so that's a piece of the overall puzzle. But but there is a difference between Kentucky and the rest of the SEC, which is they went on the road more during non-con because they're a little farther north. And they didn't just bring in a bunch of cupcakes to play at home. So you figure those two things together led to a really good RPI. And they're an old team. I'm looking at all of the key guys that play a lot, including, Jackson Gray as a senior. Their two big starting pitchers, Zach Lee and Darren Williams, are both at least, Williams is a graduate student. And so one of them's a graduate student, one of them's a senior. These guys, a couple of them have been transfers. They've got a lot of experience and solid fundamentals. So I think the key there is you can't make mistakes. If you're going to play against a team like Kentucky, you can't make mistakes because they're not going to. But from that, comparison of what we heard, we're seeing more star power out of West Virginia. And from that perspective, I think I've been listening to a lot of podcasts from a lot of the national pundits, and everyone tends to be leaning towards West Virginia being the favorite here. But that isn't those aren't the only other teams there. We do have a team that consistently wins 40 games a year that has been quite good out of Muncie, Indiana. Cassidy, what can you tell us about the Ball State Cardinals?
Yes. So out of the teams in the Lexington Regional, this is the only one that the Hoosiers played more than one game. Played them a couple of times, and they ended up 36-21 on the season with a 19-11 mark in the MAC, and they were an automatic bid, winning the conference tournament. I believe they were the 2 seed, if I remember correctly. This is their 4th appearance in the NCAA tournament, and most recent being 2006. But they did win the MAC regular season last year. So they have very much been on the upswing of late. In the couple of games against the Hoosiers, they played on April 11th, and IU won 16-13 in one of the most home run derby games I have seen in quite some time. There were 5 Ball State home runs and 3 IU home runs. They then played again in Muncie on April 25th and won 9-8. Just looking at their overall kind of team metrics, Ball State was 7-1 in neutral site games, so they are pretty good at playing in those neutral areas. It's not going to help them out for the first game, but it could help them could help them for either game they play next, because they won't play Kentucky a second time right away. Overall, they were 96th in the RPI, but their strength of schedule, of course, being in the MAC, when you factor that in, their strength of schedule was down to 218, and they were 0-4 against the RPI top 50 on the year. They did rack up a bunch of wins, but largely against weaker competition. On offense, they are perhaps a little boomer bust. They're a touch strikeout heavy, but they hit home runs. Good Lord, do they hit home runs. I believe they're at 86 on the season. Yeah, they're at 86 home runs on the season, compared to just 60 that they've given up. Leading that charge is Ryan, I think it's pronounced Peltier. I'm not completely convinced. It looks French, so we're going to go with that. He has 15 on the season, paired with a 351 batting average. He is definitely a bat to be aware of at all times. The other being Decker Scheffler, who's batting 388 with 8 home runs. Both of them have 1,000+ OPS. Very much guys to to watch out for, and particularly Scheffler. He's only got 22 strikeouts on the season. His strikeout rate is phenomenal. So while some of the others do tend a bit more towards strikeout heavy, he's not one of those. He's very much one to watch out for in this. They've got another couple of guys who both have 300 batting average or higher in Adam Tellier and Justin Canant. But Blake Bevis just under that at 271. He also has 11 home runs. So they've got some bats that can hurt you if you're not being careful. And then on the pitching side, they only have 2 pitchers with enough innings to count statistically. Those 2 being Trenor O'Donnell, who's got a sub-3 ERA in almost 85 innings pitched. And of note, on Thursday, he threw a complete game, giving up no earned runs versus Kent State. So this guy has shown recently that he can go long. And
pretty sure they were the 1 seed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was that was the best competition they were going to have in that tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so so he's shown that he can extend, he can throw lots of pitches, he can eat innings. And he has largely been the Friday guy, or the functional Friday guy, even if it's not on a Friday, of late. The other one is Ty Weatherly, who we did face one of the games. He has become a weekend starter again of late. He's really solidified in that second weekend start. He's got a 6.71 ERA in 63 innings. And then the reliever to kind of watch, he's not the guy who gets the most innings out of the pen, but Ty Johnson, he's got a 3.81 ERA in almost 50 innings. So he's kind of the big one to watch out of the pen.
We're going. One thing we're going to do here is kind of pick our players that we'd like to see click for this regional. So we are each going to pick one, and we have elected to go. How did you say we were going to do this? We're going to do this in the order of the pick'ems. So Cass gets to go first.
Yes.
So she gets the first pick of the draft. Any one she wants.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the one I'm going with is actually, I hope, kind of unexpected with having the first pick. I'm going Hunter Jesse. He did not have a bad tournament at the bat. He has definitely picked up of late going into the NCAAs. And if we can get one of those bats at the bottom of the order to really, really click, this lineup is completely different. As long as the guys at the top are still doing their thing consistently, if we can get just one of the guys at the bottom of the order to really, really click, this is a different offense and it's fun. So I'm going with Hunter Jesse.
That actually makes my job easier, because I was teetering between Hunter Jesse and another player, and now that's just makes my job easier, because I had much the same thought you did about Hunter Jesse. So my real thought here, and it's gonna kind of a turnaround from the Big Ten tournament. My pick is gonna be Braden Reisdorf. I think Braden Reisdorf's importance to this team cannot be understated at this point. I was personally, I didn't really like him being used as a back end option. I kind of understood it in this last week, simply because Kraft was not available at the Big Ten tournament. Coach has said that Kraft should be available, and that he has been throwing, and Kraft should be available for the tournament. They didn't sound horribly confident about exactly what that role was going to look like. But for Reisdorf, I think it's important that he had 2 solid starts. And then he was kind of forced back into the back end. What I really want to see, and again, it may not come out this way. And they've even said, hey, I asked this coach, and coach is like, ideally, Reisdorf will start the second game. That's what that is the ideal situation. But he didn't rule out that, hey, if he's needed to close the Friday game, if they're in that situation, if they need to win that game on Friday, he'll be available. And I completely get that, and I understand that. And either way, obviously, we're talking about a pitcher that's in a key role. And I don't see Indiana being a regional champion without multiple freshman pitchers making an impact this weekend. And I think the head of that group is Braden Reisdorf, so I'm picking him.
Completely agree, Carl. It's the only way you can do it, right? The way this thing is set up, you have to have the arms. You have to. And Reisdorf could be a guy that could pitch multiple games, multiple innings, use him early in one game, use him late in another, who knows? Now, obviously, if he goes as the Saturday starter and goes 6, that's what we're going to get from him, I would think. I can't see them pushing him. I mean, I guess it's all hands on deck Monday night if there is a game. So I don't want to say that he wouldn't be available. Everyone's going to put cleats on Monday night. If there's a game Monday night, everybody's on the table.
Yeah.
But Reisdorf's a great pick, I think. Jesse completely surprised number 1. Cass, you got me there. I did not see that one coming for the Hoosier player of the regional. But hey, listen, he was the player of the opening weekend. The performance he put on in Auburn on that Sunday, right, with the 4 hits, was it? And he really came through. I can't believe my pick that I really wanted, which I figured would be gone, is still around, but I'm going Brock Tibbetts. I'm going with Brock because I feel like he's got a little more experience, right? He's been solid the entire year, and this could be a showcase for him. I really believe it. Do we hear his name on draft boards and this and that? Maybe not yet. But you know what? This is why the lights are bright. He can get 2 hits a game, a couple of extra base hits, hit us a bomb, a couple of runs scored, a couple of RBIs each game. And you were mentioning how the bottom of the lineup with Hunter Jesse, how that changes everything, right? When the bottom of the lineup rolls. You got a white hot on fire Brock Tibbetts that's going to do that too. Because he's surrounded in the lineup by some big hitters. I know that they always say like the guy behind the hot hitter, he's protecting him and stuff, right? But you know what? The way I look at it is, and I know it from the Mets perspective and baseball forever and ever, like just say for Piazza, right? Piazza batted 3rd. They were thinking about him when the first guy was up, right? If somebody's on fire. So it just changes the lineup. It gives the pitcher more to think about. Plus maybe we get on base. And I'm going with Brock. I really think this is going to be a series for him to shine, to show what he can do. We already know he's been outstanding in the field. I think that's going to be very important. These guys are quick. They're fast. They hustle. Kentucky and West Virginia. I can't speak too much on Ball State. I didn't look them up too much, but I would think for a team making a regional like this, there's not going to be like, I'll hustle later. Like they're going to be going full bore. You know what I'm saying? So everything's going to be close, and whatever Brock can protect at first base, is huge too. But I'm picking him for the bat. I'm picking him for the offense, and that's going to be my Hoosier player of the regional pick.
There was obviously also the whole event of the selection. Indiana was very safely in the field. And there was a lot of questions, though, on the national level as to obviously there's always disputes and debates over which bubble teams make it into the tournament. I will toot my own horn a little bit in that my final field of 64 that I put out on Monday morning, I got 63 out of 64 right. I only missed one. And of the one I missed, it was the one that I put in, I had put in my last 4 in, and the one that made it was in my first, sorry, other way around. But you know what I mean? Last 4, first 5, I had to flip one from each to make to get to the final field. Now I say that like I'm tooting my own horn. The reason I bring it up is actually not from a positive perspective, because I sit there and think about it like D1. Those guys got 62 out of 64. I'm not saying that I'm better than D1 because I got one more correct than they are. But what I am saying is, I woke up on Monday morning, I pulled the RPI nitty-gritty report, and I did what I thought the committee would do. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing that I can just pull the RPI nitty-gritty report and basically exactly copy what the committee did.
Yeah.
That's telling me that is all the committee is doing. And I said, I know, yes, I'm into bracketology, and yes, I have been talking about a lot of this stuff, but most of my focus has really been on what is Indiana going to do. And over the last couple weeks, I have been very confident that Indiana has been fine. So I've not really been paying really, really close attention to what's going on in Bubble Land. And those that have were kind of upset with how some of the decisions in the end were made and some of the teams that got snubbed. And me going off of, okay, I'm just going to look at this completely fresh on Monday morning off the RPI nitty-gritty report, and I basically land at the same place the committee does. So I'm seeing maybe there's just a tad bit too much reliance on the core RPI metrics, as opposed to really trying to dig in and determine, what's going on with a lot of these West Coast teams and things like that from a bubble perspective. So that's the bubble conversation. The hosting conversation, well, you say what you want. There were, two members of the committee, the athletic directors that were on the committee, had probably had the two most controversial hosting picks. Were their own schools, the chairman in Auburn and Indiana State, both getting host sites. Now, of the hosts, all but one were in the top 16 in RPI. Indiana State was in the top 10 in RPI. And as a northern school in the top 10, I don't at all feel bad. I think it's awesome that there's going to be a regional in Terre Haute. I think that is just, first of all, as someone who lives in Indiana, I think that's just amazing that that our state has 3 teams in the field plus a host. The state of Indiana has a host. The state of Texas does not have a host.
Love that.
That is really cool. So I think those
and
are
two towns in Kentucky are hosting, which is
Yeah.
Louisville and Lexington. It's very nice. Congrats to Louisville. Congrats to Louisville. They got to host West Virginia. Dan, I hope you bring them some snacks.
Yes, I'm sure Dan is bringing West Virginia snacks.
I heard he might. I heard he's a big snacks guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I guess whatever's going to improve those facilities, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right.
And just to touch on what you were saying, Carl, I think for me, one thing I didn't like, and I'm not big into the bubble and the bracketology. I'm asking you half the time, right? But from what I saw, it looked like, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it looked like they ignored some head-to-head and went with the RPI instead. If you have a head-to-head and you have games that were played and that were weekend games, and to ignore them for what the RPI says, I think that's a little shaky. I think you go to the RPI if you don't have head-to-head on the weekends. And it doesn't look like they did. And I really like what was it, Kansas State coach kind of went off.
Oh,
good for him.
He did.
Good for him.
Yep. Yeah. And Mark Etheridge made the very specific point here, which is RPI is a tool, and it can be a good tool, but it's a tool for a very specific purpose. And this is, I'm just articulating kind of what you said here, Chris, which is that it's a tool for specific purposes, which is to compare teams that are really hard to compare. It's the one tool that can do that. It can sit there and say, okay, how are we going to compare? And I'm just going to throw 2 teams out here, Indiana and Cal State Fullerton, who play completely different schedules. How do you compare those teams? The RPI gives you a tool to do that.
But I mean, they were even
let's say you want to compare
weekends. They ignored conference weekend games. That's silly to me.
But the point is, but it's be like if we were comparing Indiana and Maryland.
Oh, we lose.
We know what that comparison is.
Yeah.
But you know who had a better RPI?
Us.
But it wouldn't matter to me.
Indiana had a better RPI.
That's
Right.
okay. I know that.
Well,
we had it by a lot.
Because
no, but
yeah,
it's okay that we had a better RPI because that's what the math says. But if it was us versus them for a host, they deserved it.
Right.
Because they killed us. Even if they just beat us 2-1 in our house, they deserved it.
Right. No, I'm completely agreeing with you. What I'm saying is, in that particular case, the RPI is the lesser tool.
Yeah.
RPI
been,
is a tool. I know, but it is. I mean, I know it wasn't from the committee perspective, but the point is RPI has a specific use, and it's to compare teams that you can't compare in other ways, and it's what you have. But
they
you're right.
Used it
shouldn't have been
teams
used
that had head-to-head weekends.
Yeah,
and I don't think that was right. I don't like that.
The argument they took was that they were looking at a group of 10 teams. And where they failed was, okay, well, within that group of 10 teams, there are 3 that were in the Big 12, a conference that only has 9 teams in it. So they all play the exact same conference schedule. Those conference standings mean something, and they need to be treated very seriously.
But they literally played each other. It wasn't even just the conference record. It was head-to-head on the weekend.
Yeah.
That's to me, they dropped the ball with that.
To some degree, I will differ with you on that. I think some people do rely a little too much on head-to-head. I think baseball is a sport that has so much hot and cold going on that I think sometimes you can explain away a head-to-head, but a completely comparative conference season, I think, is absolutely should take precedence. Yeah. So if you have one team that is,
but there's teams that had both of those that lost to the RPI.
Right. No, yeah, and it was ridiculous. Yeah,
I didn't get it. And again, I don't follow as close as you, but that part I just didn't sit right with me. And for the exact reason you brought up, right? Say Maryland was 32 RPI and we were 25, but we played the series in our house and lost 3-0. Even if we would have lost 2-1 in all extra inning games, they won. Yeah. And that's it. You played.
Yeah. But in the end, you know what? I'm just guessing here. But again, it was that whole exercise I performed on Monday morning. I did it. I didn't want to spend 5 hours doing it. Mm-hmm. I spent an hour doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's about
how much did they there's no eye test for these guys.
Yeah. Well,
they say like the eye test. Did they even watch anything?
No, with their version of the eye test is the reports from the regional advisory committees. So there are committees of experts who write a report on each team, and they're supposed to have those reports handy. They're not the ones that are at themselves evaluating because they're athletic directors. They don't.
Yeah.
So it's not like the NCAA committee for basketball. They are the ones looking.
Yeah, no. This is a group. This is a group. I think of 9 athletic directors. Like
this might be the issue here. Then
two of them, I think 2 of them have like a baseball background, but they do have all of these reports from a regional advisory committee, which includes baseball experts that they have in front of them. They should be able to say, yes, within the Big Ten.
Well, why not put those guys on the committee?
I don't know.
I mean, instead of putting a figurehead, put the guys who actually put the eyes on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You would think.
Yeah. That's too simple for the NCAA to figure out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like putting a host where there's a ginormous concert and rooms have been booked since February and state championships all over the place. Did you see the parking map? Did you see the parking map? They actually have it tells you where to park for the concert, where to park for the track, where to park for this. It's going to be nuts. Carl, we have to go so early, man. We'll just go super early. It's traffic. It's going to be wild. But again, it's better than getting sent to somewhere where you couldn't go at all.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep. And about the I think we do need to touch on it because there's been so much conversation about the situation. And I do feel bad for certain constituencies in all of this. Now, from everything I'm reading, I think Kentucky did everything right. At least from this perspective, they at least were upfront about it. They informed the NCAA of what the situation was and what they were capable of doing. And it sounds like they're going to follow through with what they promised the NCAA they could do. And honestly, I can't fault Kentucky because they were honest with the whole process. So if there is to be fault about this, that fault lies with the NCAA and the NCAA alone, in my opinion.
Agreed. Once we got that report, once somebody actually did more digging into the situation than just the tweet from the 11.7 guy, because the Indy Star didn't do that. All they did was tell us about the tweet.
Yeah.
But when the kid in Kentucky, I think he was a student actually. He was a student reporter who did more work than the Indy Star guy did. He actually contacted the NCAA.
Yeah.
And the NCAA was completely upfront and said, yes, Kentucky told us that this was the plan, that the other teams could choose allotments of hotels in Louisville, or they could stay at these dorms, which apparently are pretty nice. And Kentucky even chipped in linens and TVs, guys.
Oh, yeah. Although you have to pay to get your linens changed.
That's true. That's true. I guess it depends on how many days you're going to be there. They don't want to, do too much laundry.
Yeah. I will say, and I had said this in our own discussions, my one concern with the dorm style housing arrangement, and Carl, you had come up with a decent option, at least where this applies, is those dorms have twin XL beds. Those beds are 6.5 feet long. We've got several players who are taller than that 6.5 feet. And with a double or a queen bed, you can get away with that by sleeping the diagonal. But Carl had brought up there could be the possibility to put two beds end to end, and
that's the way it looked based on the thing that the Kentucky had put out was that
guys, we drove a pitching machine to Auburn. If you don't think we're bringing beds,
good point. Yeah.
If you don't think we're bringing king size Californias to this thing, you're crazy.
Yeah.
If we drove a pitching machine to Auburn.
Yes, but that was my one concern with the
I'm
dorm
sure it's taken care
style
of.
is the beds.
Yep.
We're gonna have California Kings in our rooms.
Yes.
Yep. Luke Sennard will get a good night's sleep on Thursday.
Yes.
So
I would hope.
So yeah, there's been a lot of discussion and discussion and talking about it. So I think there obviously are the questions of should the NCAA have granted this or not, but Kentucky let them know. So that was completely in the ball. A few things to consider. This whole situation is going to be tougher on certain groups than others. It's going to be tough, I think, particularly on families of players. It's going to be tough on visiting fans. Now, conversely, there's other situations around the country that you don't really think about and talk about. I mean, we've been to Auburn. We know how hard it was just to get tickets for opening weekend.
Yeah.
Auburn's not a huge place. So there's a regional that I'm pretty sure sold out in like 2 minutes. Yeah. So there are situations where, where regionals where it's going to be outside of having the family allotment where there's not a lot that visiting fans are going to be able to even get access to in other regions. And that's not a problem here at this particular regional. And the other thought was, well, they should have just had this at one of the other sites. That's not how this works. If they had decided that an SEC team was not rated to host, Kentucky would have been dropped to a 2, and one of the other deserving hosts, because there were about 19 or 20 deserving hosts this year. So one of those would have gotten it, and that could have been Southern Miss, that could have been Campbell. There were other hosts available, and they would have been in other parts of the country, and Indiana would have most likely been traveling a lot farther.
Yep.
So and then I get it. It's going to impact certain constituencies more. I actually think Kentucky's doing a pretty good job of taking care of the student athletes in particular. I think the families in particular this is a bit of a struggle. They already have to do a lot to be able to follow these teams, to follow their players. There's a lot of expense involved with that. So I have a little bit of feeling for the families. And I have a feeling for for our. I think it is going to hamper. I think Indiana's going to have fewer fans there than Indiana ought to for a typical regional setup in this situation. So those things aren't great.
Which that plays into Kentucky's hands as the host. They get an even greater home field advantage than they would otherwise. I think that's the part that irks me a bit.
Yeah.
Because Indiana draws well to Lexington.
Yeah.
Unless there's no lodging available. And then people are going to be like, no, I'm not messing with it anymore. Outside of the immediate parents, friends, family.
Yep, that's
and the committee sent 2 teams though that applied for hosts. I mean, West Virginia was selling tickets. We didn't go as far as selling tickets because after Maryland we knew, but this regional has 3 teams in it that applied to host, and I'm sure were approved. We were. West Virginia, I'm sure was. Yeah. They literally were selling tickets. Yeah. Everyone got their deposits back. I saw the forums when I was going through Twitter to research the team a little bit, and I was like, oh, ouch. Like they had put money down for the regional, and in that paperwork, it was talking supers even.
Yeah.
Because they were ranked so high that they had dreams of being a national seed.
Yeah.
So you've got a regional with 3 teams that applied to host. But like Carl said, it doesn't go to the next. It's not like that kind of thing. Like say we win this regional and LSU doesn't win theirs, then it goes to us and one of those teams, and then maybe we would get it. But it's not like that. Once they approved them, the application, that was it. Then they were part of the teams that could host. So it happens. You're both spot on though, right? It's hard on the families, and it definitely won't be as many red shirts in the crowd. But you know what? Just we're back in.
Yep.
We could have played. What is supposed to say? We'll play on the moon, right? Who cares? I was just greedy. I was greedy. I wanted it to be somewhere close because I really wanted to go. But I was honest about it. I was being greedy. I would have took just getting in somewhere. It would have been okay. One of my favorite games ever watching IU is that regional against Texas that Sunday night.
Yeah.
And we weren't at the game, but that was high-end Class A baseball. And knowing that if we won, they were going to show the Game 7 Monday night at the BART. I mean, we might have had a little inside info on that, but we knew it was going to happen. So as with the winning, and then, there's a chance that we're going to do this. I'm like, we're going to be at the BART tomorrow night watching Game 7 and beating Texas. And then the other team had lost. So we could have hosted that Super. Mm-hmm. So you just go through it. The regionals are never guaranteed. I think we took it a little for granted. No, I won't even say I took it a little for granted. You know what I'm saying? I got into town off the 13 World Series, then there was regionals of 14, then Nashville in 15, Kentucky in 17, and then Texas, and then Louisville. Now it's been a while. So this one seems a little more special for whatever reason. And again, because it had been a while without it. Even just the days leading up to it, I put it on Twitter, like, I forgot how good this feels. Like just waiting, it's like that week before a playoff game for your football team, you're just ready for it. But, it'll be here before we know it. We'll be out there in Baghdad, Kentucky, and trying to get you as much info as we can, for the regionals. And hopefully we're at a lot of night games.
Yep. Very much so. All right. I'm looking through the list of what we discussed heading up to this. Yes, we have one last thing to do. We have each made our picks for we're going to choose 7 for Omaha. Yes, we know there are 8 in Omaha, but like
Omaha 7.
The Omaha 7, just like we do with the B1G Pick'em, we are not going to pick our own Indiana bracket.
We are big balls of superstitious.
Yes. Although I'll be honest, I mean, I'm filling out the D1 bracket, so I have to put my picks in there. But I don't have to talk about that publicly though. So all right. So Cass, I guess we'll start with you. Who are your 7 for Omaha?
Okay, so I just went through each of the paired brackets and picked, and I, as much as I tend to be Big Ten, go Big Ten as a general rule in postseason, it's going to be tough to beat Wake Forest for Maryland. That was a very tough draw for them. I'm going Wake Forest and I'm going Florida for the top two. I'm going with the moderately homer pick, and I want to see Indiana State do it. Am I convinced they can? No, but I want to see them do it, so I'm putting them. In the 4 national seed super regional, that one was really difficult. I ended up going with Clemson, but I think whoever wins out of Clemson, Tennessee is really the one who has the best shot there. Skipping the Baton Rouge based one that has Indiana in it. Going with Vandy in the next one. I'm going East Carolina as the upset in the next one, and Stanford taking it in the 8-9 matchup. So I've got Wake Forest, Florida, Indiana State, Clemson, Vandy, ECU, and Stanford.
All right. So did you give all of your super matchups then? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought you were. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. I was going
and then you
out of
listed.
this.
Yeah, I just
out
want to make
of
sure I
the
do. I follow the
super,
same pattern. Yeah. Okay.
It was easier for me to make sure I didn't miss any that way.
Okay. So I will do all that as well. Okay. So my super picks. So I've got Wake Forest out of Winston-Salem. And I do have Alabama. I am picking Texas out of Coral Gables, and Texas A&M out of Stanford. So I will skip that.
Who would host that one? That one would be nuts. Who would host that? Texas A&M. I don't know, but that would be. Woo. I hope it's A&M.
Well, they are
somewhere in Texas.
They're both 2 seeds, so it would be a bidding process.
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be lit. That super would be lit. No matter where it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hope A&M hosts it though, because they're better.
So then I've got Auburn and Clemson in a super. I am going a little Big Ten homer. I've got Iowa and Arizona in a super.
Ooh.
Vanderbilt and Washington. Duke and East Carolina. And then I'm wrapping that up with Florida and NC State. So my 7 for Omaha are Alabama, Texas, and Clemson in one bracket. And in the other bracket, NC State, East Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Iowa.
Okay.
The Omaha 7. I never thought I'd hear it. This is great. All right. I have Iowa also, Carl, but I have them going with Arkansas. I got Oklahoma State and Vanderbilt, Oklahoma and Duke, South Carolina, maybe because we kind of know a guy over there. I think I'm going to root for him against Florida. I'm going to go Auburn versus Tennessee, Texas A&M against the U, Boston College against Wake. So that's all of them, right? I was trying to scramble while you guys were talking because mine's on my phone. So
I was wondering if that was the case.
Yeah. All right. So that's all of them, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So now there's 7. I got Wake getting there, Texas A&M, an unnamed team. Okay, because that's the unnamed team, right? And then it looks like here I got Auburn, and then on the other side, South Carolina, Duke, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. And those are my 7. Do you want?
Okay.
Are we picking the champs or not?
We can if you want to.
We can.
Yeah, but are you okay with that, Cass?
I would like to.
Okay.
I'm just picking a random stab in the dark out of mine. So
okay. What do you got, Cass?
I am. It's tough. I'm going Clemson.
Over.
Oh, I don't even know. Let's go Wake. I think Wake's going to be tough to stop.
So they're going to get all the way to the end to be the first team since '99 to be the 1 seed to win it and then lose it?
Yes.
Woo! That would be wild. All right. No one's even gotten to the. I don't
I
think
know.
one has even gotten to the championship series.
And that's why I was hesitant to go that way, but sounds fun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. A good story.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
I have Clemson also as the national championship, beating Iowa.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Iowa in the championship series. Good luck. Okay.
They've got the pitching. They have got the pitching to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially in that ballpark.
All right. So for the top half, I'm going to go with those guys who like to blow bubbles in Omaha. At Texas A&M gets to the championship series, and South Carolina beats them.
Okay.
So that's going to be my my title pick. It's a little bit of a homer pick, but they have a lot of. They're good, man. They tailed off a little at the end, but they were riding high for a while. South Carolina.
They just need to get hot again. They just need to get out of this funk they've been in.
Yeah, and sometimes those are the guys that last year the last team in got in there, right? When Lamonis won his, didn't he have like a terrible ending in the conference thing? You never know.
He got run ruled twice in the conference tournament, and then went on
and then won the national title.
They went on to a natty.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't know. And then the last team that gets in the tournament wins the whole damn thing last year. So you don't know.
And in 2019, Michigan, of course, that goes with Eric Bakich, who's the coach of Clemson now. Michigan was among the last four in, and then they went to the title game. So,
well, they were like in the 8th inning of the Big Ten game, and if they lost that game, they weren't going to get in.
Yeah.
So you never know. It's a great time of year. I saw a poll come up on Twitter, and it said, just out of curiosity, what do you look more forward to this year? NBA Finals, what? NCAA college tournament, and it was like 90-10 college baseball. It was funny. So I mean, obviously, it depends what you're into, but it's a great time of year. And you know what? That you never know who that unnamed 8th team could be.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, the point is, we're all. I mean, we're making a couple of bold picks in all of that, but none of these picks that we've talked about would be, oh my goodness, shocking. Yeah. There will probably be an oh my goodness shocking appearance in this event.
But it's nobody picks the 16 seed to upset the 1 seed in the first round of March Madness. This is kind of that same thing. You don't pick the oddball one. You just know one of them is going
but the difference is one of those that does something crazy in the regional might get to Omaha.
Oh, yeah.
Wright State could get to Omaha.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild the way it works out. And it always, it's more of a guarantee that a 3 is going to, or a 4 is going to play in a super than the number 1 overall seed is going to play for the title.
Yeah.
Because it never happens.
Yeah.
Like the odds are probably better. I mean, if Tennessee couldn't do it last year, Tennessee didn't even go to Omaha.
Yeah.
And they were
the highest ranked team.
Yeah, they were absolutely unstoppable during the season.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely cakewalk through the SEC. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it went by Vegas, when they were going over the odds, they were the biggest favorite, let's say. It's hard to explain with baseball, but they were basically the most far and away favorite in like 15 years to win the whole thing.
Yep.
In number 1 seeds obviously are favorites, but like those were the most far and away number 1 seed we've had in so long. And Notre Dame beat them, no?
Yep.
So you never know.
I picked that one too.
You did.
I didn't pick anything else well, but I did pick that.
No, you did nail that one. I remember seeing that. But I think we went over everything, right? It was just something. I don't know if it's
everything that we listed in the chat, we've hit upon. So
awesome. Hey, we hadn't done this in 4 years. We actually had to write stuff down and figure it out.
Yeah.
And here's to doing another one next week. We're hosting a super.
Yep.
That'd be real fun.
I might as well be greedy again.
Even just go, another trip to LSU.
Let's get crazy. Who are the other teams in that one?
Okay, you would have to be either Sam Houston or Tulane.
Why? Why? What's the 2?
Oregon State. Oregon State would host.
Yeah,
they would host over us. That's fair.
Because it's 2 over 3.
Oregon State out. We need Oregon State out. We need LSU out. And so, who are we going to root for?
Sam Houston. Either that or a 19-win Tulane team.
Oh, I saw this. Tulane is the worst team to make this tournament since who? Trivia question. You know this answer.
Oh,
Youngstown State.
Yes. And where did they win their game? At the
In-
Bart.
Yep.
I was there. A lot of us were there, right?
Yep.
They were because they had the least wins up. I think they actually had more wins, but like percentages are different. But basically, that when the Penguin logo came up, I'm like, oh, that was the year that they. Who did they beat? Oh, they beat Indiana State.
Indiana State, yeah.
Yep.
They beat Indiana State in the day game, and then we beat Stanford in the night. We won't talk about what happened after that, though.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but yeah, the since 2014, they're the team least likely to even make the tournament since the Penguins of Youngstown State, who, by the way, Philip Glasser played for, not that team, but he played for Youngstown. So maybe that's a good sign. Oh, if you're going to the games, it's going to be super hot. It's going to be like 90 degrees all weekend, from what I understand. So dress right, fluids, the whole thing, be ready.
Yep.
It's
so if this
literally
Carl,
90 degrees
both
all
ends of the
weekend
spectrum
long.
in this ballpark.
Yeah, so if you're making your second trip to Kentucky Proud Park, it's going to be a little different weather than the first trip.
Dress the
That's
same.
right.
Do not dress the same.
And don't bring that blanket, bro. You don't need it. Yeah, all weekend, 90 degrees. Again, hopefully we're playing night games. If we win Friday, from what I understand, we might be checking out some farms in Kentucky, maybe some alpacas. We'll have to see how the day goes, and then a night game against either Kentucky or Ball State at 7. That's my greedy list that I want to happen, but we'll see. It could break either way. If somehow we win Friday at 7 and Saturday at 7, like we said before, we're sitting there Sunday night with a chance to win and move on.
Yep. Very much like that idea.
Yeah, that would be wild.
No
I mean, the
reason to
last
draw
time we
it
were
out.
sitting there, right? But 2014, we were sitting in that spot, and obviously it didn't work out. But
Yeah.
maybe a little payback. This time we get to do it on the road in someone else's house. Never know. Hey, and a lot of times, you know what? Kentucky doesn't want to come to Bloomington to play, right? Isn't that a thing? John never wants to play now in Bloomington, so we'll go over there to Lexington and win, even if we can't stay in Lexington. We'll Baghdad Airbnb will be a lucky one.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, that concludes this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Again, we have the Indiana Hoosiers playing in the Lexington Regional Friday at 7 p.m. So the ESPN family of stations, I think this one's going to be ESPN Plus. Is that correct, Chris?
For Friday, yeah.
So.
Friday will be on ESPN Plus.
Absolutely.
Yes. So it will be streamable. Obviously, the typical Austin Render audio call on iuhoosiers.com should be available. And of course, stat broadcast. I do intend, unless something happens that's unforeseen, as far as media credentials and stuff, I should be able to live blog the game, and we'll have that information. So we will keep you posted with as much detail as we can. And Chris, I think, is going to be pushing out a lot of really cool videos of what's happening on the field and in the stands. So keep an eye out for that stuff on social media. So for Cassidy Palmer and Chris Feeney, I'm Carl James. And while it won't be this weekend, lots of baseball this weekend, but at some point we will see you at the BART.